But they say zakat farm. Now the good smell is coming. Okay. When somebody, if you have, let's say, uh, sheep, and it starts growing to the full size, a tree starts growing to the full size, zakat. That's zakat. With regards to different things. So with regards to your wealth, zakat of man is to complete it, to beautify it, is to make it ripen, make it what it's supposed to be. That is how beautiful it is. You can't translate it and you lose all these meanings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran often puts it together with salat. Why? أقيموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة. Salat, connecting with God. How does it translate now? If you connect with God, you become godly. If your connection was correct, now you become a godly person. And therefore your giving becomes godly. You detach. Money is not so important to you except when you can use it in a godly way. Imam Ali alayhi salam, when people were congratulating him because he became Khalifa, highest position at the time, authority of most of the known world. Yes, extremely important position. Yes, so people were congratulating him. The Imam says, this Khilafah that you're speaking about, for me, it's worthless, less worthy than the sneeze of a goat. The sneeze of a goat. Except, listen to me, except if I can establish the rights of the oppressed, take their rights from the oppressors and give it to them, then it's worth it. So for him, Khilafah has to fulfill its purpose. Khilafah of Rasulullah is establishment of justice, taking the rights of the oppressed from the oppressor. That is what Khilafah is for. If I can't do that, it's worthless. Less than the sneeze of a goat. Who wants the sneeze of a goat? If a goat sneezes, would you go and like that? Think of this. These are the examples Amir gives. He has other examples. I don't want to get into them. Sometimes he puts examples to put basically knock some sense into us. Money is only significant if we can use it in a godly way. If you can make things easier for your family, that's a godly way. If you can pay your debt so you're debt free, that's a godly way. If you can spend on the poor and needy for the sake of God, that's a godly way. If we do not use money in this way, it's nothing but a burden. We go back to Amir al-Mu'mineen, salawatullah wa alayhi. They asked him, why is it that money does not stay in your hand much? Anytime you get any money, you distribute it so quick. He said, because I knew that on the day of judgment, one of the things that we will be questioned about is the wealth. Not only how much do you have, it's two things. Where did you get it from and how did you spend it? Two questionings about money. He says the more you have, the longer you're standing on the day of judgment to answer. This is a beautiful. Therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran puts salat and zakat together for us, right next to each other. Almost in every instance that God commands us, commands us to pray, he says, pay. In some cases, it comes before. In Surah Al-Baqarah, in Surah Al-Fatiha, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for guidance, yes? Then we come to Surah Al-Baqarah. By the way, some people question the order of the Quran. Quran, according to itself, is in the order God wanted. According to the Quran is in the order God intended. How do I say that? First of all, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we are the ones revealing the Quran and we are protecting it. Sure, that's one. Second, not just the Quran is protected. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, Quran, that we will tell you, we will reveal it to you and tell you the order of it. Inna alayna jam'ahu wa Quran. Jam' is to collect it together. The basically compiling of the Quran is upon us, and the recitation is upon us. In other words, God is saying it's us, and this is what narrations tell us, that the Prophet used to dictate to the scribes where to put each ayah, which one goes where. He would dictate to them to write the ayah and where it goes. After Surah Al-Fatiha, this is a side note because people sometimes ask me this. It's a frequent question. After Surah Al-Fatiha, we have Surah Al-Baqarah. Starts with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alif Lam Mim. Secrets of the Quran, we leave it alone for now. That is the book. There's no doubt about it. It's Hudan lil-Muttaqeen, guidance for this, specifically for the Muttaqeen. Who are they? Muttaqeen are described here. Who are they? الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. Those who believe in the unseen. وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ. Yes, they establish prayers. وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. Subhanallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts us here together, but amazing. Reminds us of the fact that we gave it to them in the first place. وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ. From what we have sustained them, they spend. When God tells you spend, who gave it to you? Unfortunately, many of us still live the Qarun lifestyle or the Qarun mentality. What's Qarun's mentality? Qarun was an enemy of Musa alayhi salam. Yes? Qarun, when it came to his wealth, he had so much wealth. Quran says the keys to his treasures were so much that a big group of men could not carry the keys. A big group of men, strong men. Big group of strong men could not carry the keys to his treasure. That's how rich he was. When he was told to give, he questioned faith in God and everything, and the prophet of God. He said, if you are a prophet, why don't you ask God? And one of his statements regarding his wealth was what? I got it because of my knowledge. Because of my knowledge. Some of us, I worked hard. I studied, I worked hard. So many people worked way harder than you and didn't get much. And so many people don't do much and get a lot. Why? This is how God is testing us. Wealth is a test. Whether you get a little is a test, and if you get a lot is also a test. How did you treat it? Therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us what we gave them. Godly people, those who return. Now, I want you to consider this. If we are returning to God, we solidify our faith. Taba wa amana. Now comes to giving. Let us not be amongst the Qarun people. People like Qarun. No. Rather, let us be like Ahlul Bayt. We gathered for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Do you know how giving was Imam Hussein alayhi salam? Or his brother Imam Hussein alayhi salam? Or I mentioned another person at that same time, Abdullah ibn Ja'far, the husband of Zaynab salamullah. Three men were known in Medina, the most generous people. If you had any need, you go to any of them, you know it's fulfilled. When they asked Imam Hassan alayhi salam, you give so much. People asked you, you give them everything in your possession. You give. Why is it? He said, God got me used to replacing and multiplying everything that I give. I don't want to break that cycle. So learn from the Imam's experience. Don't doubt God. And don't test him. I give now, okay, I gave $10, it's gonna be $100. No, it could be millions. Just don't test God and don't wait for it in your timetable. It will come to you. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, a man came to him. We get it for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Let's be Hussein. Let's learn from him. He wasn't just in Karbala, by the way. He lived a long life before. Let's learn from the lessons, or some lessons from the life of Imam Hussein. A man came to him, and in a very poetic way, he expressed his needs. The Imam, in a poetic way, responded to him, gave him so much beyond what he could even imagine. He told his servant, whatever we received, they had received some gift from Yemen or something, big number, big amount of money, gold, maybe a few thousand or something. Huge, like in today's money, maybe a few 100,000. Okay. The Imam's distant servant give it to him. And then he says to him, take it. The man came with a poetic way. He says, the one who knocks at your door will never be disappointed. لم يخب اليوم من أتاك ومن حرك دون بابك الحلقة. And then he praised his father, Amir al-Mu'minin. He says, your father was the one who taught people to denounce the idols and believe in the one God. So praising the Imam in a poetic sense. He didn't say, I need anything. All he said is, the one who knocks at your door does not get disappointed. The Imam says to the servant, you know, the money you receive, give it to him. Whatever it was, give it to him. And then he says to him, now look at the love of Ahlul Bayt. Now, when you give someone, you have to impress them. You already gave them. But the Imams made people feel honored, not indebted, honored. When you give, you make people feel honored. This is your opportunity. Somebody knocks at your door, somebody calls you, messages you, somebody comes to you here at the center, in anywhere. They're asking, this is your opportunity. Look at it as an opportunity, because if God wants to sustain them, He will sustain them, whether you give them or not. Yes or no? Do we doubt that? If God wants to help somebody in a situation, difficult situation, whether you give them or not, will God help them or not? The question is, did I take advantage of that opportunity or did I not? The Imam, he says to him, خذها فإني إليك مقتدر. Take it, but I'm apologizing to you. And then again in a poem, rhyming beautiful poem. He says, the times were better, you would see us more generous. In a beautiful poem, rhyming, the man was in tears. So the Imam said, did we give you little? That you are in tears. Says, that is not why I'm crying. He says, I'm crying because I cannot believe that this generous hand one day could go under the ground. Before even he knew what would happen to the Imam and how people would treat the Imam. Just the mere thought that this Imam could someday depart this world brought tears to the sad. Seeing this generous Imam that he was. This is our Imam. This is the Imam Hussein. Do we know who he is? Do we know how he lived? This is his giving. The Imam, when he gave, the hadith says they gave the giving of one who never fears poverty. Why? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, He tells us when it comes to giving, Shaitan will block you. By doing what? He will tell you, you will be poor. If you give, you will be poor. Quran says, الشيطان يعدكم الفقر. Shaitan promises you, you give, you'll be poor. On the opposite hand, God promises you, if you give, He will forgive you. See, it's related to Tawbah. وَاللَّهُ يَعِدُكُمْ مَغْفِرَةً مِّنْهُ وَفَضْلًا. God promises you He will forgive you and give you even from His great fadl. Here, there's no limit. You cannot even imagine what He will give you. Often we think it's all about the money. What if you have a righteous child who will live after you, living your legacy and sending you some good deeds? Is that something you could put value on? Can you put a number on that? What if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you the opportunity to educate and teach people and start a legacy where so many people are impacted by your words? Can you ever put a number to that? Can you put a number to the words of Imam Hussein alayhi salam? One of the brothers reminded me of one of the slogans of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. When he said, "Hayat minna dillah." Can you put a number on this statement of the Imam? Do you know how many freedom fighters, how many revolutionary people, how many human, real humans that were fighting for humanity and justice and goodness learned from this statement of the Imam sallallahu alayhi hayat minna dillah. And how do we apply it? The question sometimes is, how do you apply it today? Today you apply it when you make sure you can speak the truth and establish justice and practice your faith without fear of what is this boss or the dean at university or your professor or your colleagues or your classmates. What are they going to think about me, my faith, my practices, or my statements when I'm standing with the oppressed against the oppressor? What are they going to think? What are they going to do? This is hayat today. Or when you have to give, and Shaitan says to you, you will be poor. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to you, He will forgive you and multiply for you. You say, Labbayka ya Hussein, through your giving. This is the application of living Hussein, godliness and being Hussein. Today, offering the most beautiful, not offering the least that we can do without. When it comes to offering and beautification, you need to make sure you offer the most beautiful. There are some conditions or some tests that you can put for your tawbah and offering and establish. I put 5 of them. I will share with those and we go to the Ansar. We can establish through them whether we have return and our offerings are Magdi. Our offerings are Hussein, which we should be trying our best to get there. One of them is when you offer godly, it's not about good enough. The first one, no negotiating. If the expectation in zakat is a certain percentage, if the expectation in funds is a certain percentage, there's no negotiation. One who reach, not only would they fulfill their duty, they want to give more because they recognize that in their wealth there is a right. Quran says they recognize the right of the needy in their wealth. They realize God gave them more than what they need, so that they have the opportunity to give. The trial of those who have is giving. Will you give? Or will you be like some the Quran describes them, يكنزون الذهب والفضة. They accumulate gold and silver. I won't mention which party and which group. We don't want to get political. Most of you probably know gold. Relationship with gold, you would know. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says they are followers of gold. Do you want to follow them? Or do you want to follow Imam Hussein? Or do you want to follow Amir al-Mu'mineen? Can you believe that Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, when him and his wife gave their food to the miskin and yatim and asir, to the poor and the orphan and the captive, they had to put their own children to sleep hungry. Can you even imagine that? Or do we just tell stories? Let's put some application. This is our Imam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises. Every time they do something, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises them in the Quran. The Imam gives the poor man in the masjid his ring. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states his leadership through this. إِنَّمَا وَلِيُّكُمُ اللَّهُ. Your guardian, the one who has authority over you, is God, and the messenger and the believers, the one who establishes prayers and gives zakat while in bowing in ruku', وَيُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ وَهُمْ رَاكِعُونَ. Sunni and Shia, they say this was about Imam Ali alayhi salam, except the haters of Ahlul Bayt. A few haters who try and put someone else's name as well. Subhanallah. Otherwise, everyone knows that this was in relation to Imam Ali alayhi salam. Because he gives the most beautiful. He gives beauty. No negotiation. One. Second one, no hesitation. One of the biggest weapons of shaitan against us when it comes to giving, offering for the sake of God, is delaying us, hesitation. He tells you, wait, think, not just the poverty aspect. Is this genuine? You'll do it later. Let's do some research. Is this person genuinely in need? Is this cause a genuine cause? And then the next thing is the amount. You have some amounts in mind. Yes, you want to give a certain amount. There's a big good project. They're building some school, hospital for some needy people. And it's a good cause. And you have some spare money in your account, let's say 10,000, whatever it is. And you think, okay, I'm going to give it. You, what do they say? You snooze, you lose. You snooze, shaitan comes. He starts giving you all the reasons why you should not give and give less. You start with 10,000, you might, if you're lucky, you'll end up giving 100. If you're lucky. But beautifying, remember Imam Hussein alayhi salam? No hesitation, no questions. The servant gets worried. The one who the Imam is in charge of his food gets worried. One of the servants one day says to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, in another instance of giving, this is everything that we have. He's worried. What are they going to eat? You know, if they, the Imam says the one who gave us will give us. Don't you worry. The Imam is the one in charge and who's responsible, and he's giving. So when you give, if you want to make sure your tawbah was accurate and your faith is now solid, test your giving. I'm in a solid through giving. If you hesitate, let's solidify our faith. This is why actually we need more Allah. These gatherings are where we actually do the cleansing of the heart, cleaning the heart. And maw'idatu jala'ul qulub. Jala is the polishing. Maw'id, these words of reminders, we all need. I need it. We all need it. Are the polishing of the heart. The heart gets dirty through neglect and sinfulness, and these reminders polish it. We need them constantly. Test yourself and go back and solidify your faith. Improve your tawbah, solidify your faith, come back now and test your Amal al-Salih, you're giving. Am I negotiating with God? Am I hesitating? Inshallah, we'll come to the rest of them due to the time in the coming nights, those tests for our faith and our tawbah, our return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tonight, let's go to one of those who gave everything he had for the Imam of Islam, was not even willing to drink water. You know, that when it comes to some things we consider very small, he was not willing to drink water because his master and his Imam was thirsty. Let's remember أبا الفضل السلام الله صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله. One of the narrators, historians, Al-Khwarizmi, he narrates, he says, after the young man from Bani Hashim were martyred, specifically says after the Imam brought the body of Al-Qasim back to the towns, the Imam started crying, reciting these lines of poetry. غريبون عن أوطانهم وديارهم. They're lonely, estranged, and far from their homes and their hometowns. He says, تنوح عليهم. Everything in the desert of Karbala is weeping for them. وكيف لا تبكي العيون لمعشر. How would eyes not cry for people were bright like the moons, yet ripped apart with the sword of the enemy? The Imam recited and cried, Abul al-Fadl al-Abbas realized the Imam has no soldiers, not even young ones, to go out and fight and defend the Imam. He says, Sayyidi ya Aba Abdullah, allow me to go out to the battlefield and stop these people from surrounding you, coming close to you, fight them. The Imam says to him, you are the one who gives comfort to the babies in the tent. You are the holder of the banner. You are the backbone of Al-Fadl. Then, as they heard the cries of the children, they were thirsty, crying, Al-Atash, Al-Atash, Al-Atash. Some narrate that on the seventh day, when they blocked the water, Al-Fam went and got some water, fought some of the enemy and got some water. The children now on the 10th of Muharram, so thirsty, crying al-Amash, as if they're saying, oh Abalfa, oh Uncle, once you brought us water, we are so thirsty. The Imam says to him, Abalfa, if you have to go, then try and get some water for these children. Abel now has the permission to go. He gets on his horse Like a lion, he goes toward the river. None of the enemies could stand against him. Everyone who would come in his way would be struck somehow. And Paul gets to the water. Tired from the battle, tired from the wounds and the arrows, gets in the water, fills the skin for the children, fills his hand with some water. As he looks at the water, narrator said, فرمى الماء على الماء. He threw the water back in the river. He said, يا نفس من بعد الحسين هوني وبعده لا كنت أن تكوني. O son after Hussein, you shall not exist. He says, Hussein, my master, is thirsty, facing martyrdom. How could I ever drink the fresh water? He threw it, went back to the tents, charging against the enemy. Umar ibn Sa'd, Rahmatullah alayh. He says, do whatever you do. He says to his army, stop him from getting the water to the tents. They start throwing arrows, stones, attacking him from every angle. Some of them hid for him. One of them hid and tricked him from behind the palm tree near the river bank. As Abenfeld was passing, he struck the right arm of Abenfeld. He cried, آه والله إن قطعته يميني إني أحامي أبدا عن ديني. By God, even if you cut off my right arm, I will continue defending my religion forever. Continued now, holding the sword with his left. All he wanted to do is to reach the tent with the water. Another one hiding struck the left arm of Abel Fadl. He says, يا نفس لا تخشي من الكفار وأبشري الجبار. He said, also do not fear those who deny the Lord. Be it known, O soul, that you will be facing the blessings of your Lord. About now, unable to fight, all he wanted to do is to get the water to the tent. They start throwing arrows towards him until one of them pierces through the water skin. Having no destination in mind, he stood there and they threw another arrow in his eye. Salamullah alayk ya Abdullah. Not knowing where to go, what to do. Couldn't go to the tents without the water. He stood there until one of them struck Abel with an iron rod on his head as he was falling to the ground. Imagine the scene, falling to the ground without his arms, with an arrow in his eye. رحم الله من نادى وعباسا وابا الفضل. He called to Imam Al-Khoei alayhi salam. The Imam came to him like a lion, like an eagle. So fast he came towards him. They started running away from the Imam as he came. He came calling them in, where you're running, you have killed my brother. إلهنا وقد قتلتم أخي. Then he came near the body of Abel. Some narrate that Abel, having blood in his eyes, sank all over his face. Unable to see who's coming, he said, whoever you are, give my brother the chance to come and say farewell to me. The Imam says to him, Abel, this is me, you're breaking my heart. He wiped his face, wanted to carry him towards the turret. Abel said, oh, Abdullah, do not take me to the turret. If you go to Karbala, you would see all the mountains are on one side, Abel is all on the other side. Why Abel? Perhaps beside the thirsty children, he did not want Zainab and the ladies to see the protector without his arm. When Imam Hussein left towards the tent fight for the ladies, he was holding his back, saying, "Al-an inkasar dhahri." Now my back is broken. He goes in the state that he goes towards the tent. They asked him, perhaps by seeing the way he was, they knew what happened to Abel Fal. Zainab Salam Allah alaykum wa لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا محمد أي ينقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. أسألك اللهم وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم إلهي بمحمد وعلي وفاطمة والحسن والحسين وبالتسعة المعصومين من ذرية الحسين. إلهي بقمر بني هاشم هذا الفضل العباس استجب دعواتنا يا الله. يا الله يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. يا الله make us steadfast upon the religion يا الله. مؤمنين مؤمنات who are unwell, those who ask us for dua. Those in difficulty, grant them the quick relief, the quick recovery and victory. Ya Allah, mu'mineen and mu'minat, who departed from our gatherings. Ya Allah, grant them abundance of your mercy. Ya Allah, grant us the opportunity to be amongst the sincere followers of the Imam of our time, those who prepare for his return. Ya Allah, the souls of fallen unbelief, scholars, martyrs, Ya Allah. Grant all of them abundance of your mercy with the reward of Al-Fatiha مع الصلوات.
The banners that fall beneath the burning sky. For first name you fought and were ready to die. لبيك يا أمل الخوف لبيك يا أمل الخوف. You walked to the river with water in sight, but your heart stayed loyal and held to the right. لبيك يا أمل الخوف لبيك يا أمل الخوف. The children were thirsty and pulled out your name. You entered with honor and never saw fame. لبيك يا أمل الخوف لبيك يا أمل الخوف. Your hand was struck, but your promise remained. Through pain and hardship, your spirit sustained. Your hand was struck, but your promise remained. Through pain and hardship, your spirit sustained. لبيك يا أمل الخوف لبيك يا أمل الخوف. You reached the water but turned from the stream because serving my saying was your only dream. لبيك يا أمل الخوف لبيك يا أمل الخوف. The sky became silent, the battlefield cried, but loyalty stood there and never had died. لبيك يا أمل الخوف لبيك يا أمل الخوف. Oh, moon of passion, your memory remains. Your story lives through the sorrow and pain. Peace to your struggle and peace to your skin. Peace to the standard that stayed in your hand. لبيك يا أمل الخوف لبيك يا أمل الخوف. Oh, bearer of the flying, you stood proud and tall. Like your sin, you gave me your own. Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas. لبيك يا أبا الفضل لبيك يا أبا الفضل. صلوات اللهم وتوجه. السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا خديجة الكبرى، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي المجتبى، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، يا حسين بن علي الشهيد بكربلاء، السلام عليك يا علي بن الحسين زين العابدين ومحمد بن علي الباكر وجعفر بن محمد الصادق وموسى بن جعفر الكاذب وعلي بن موسى الرضا ومحمد بن علي الجواد الفقيه وعلي بن محمد الهادي النقي والحسن بن علي العسكري. السلام عليك يا هدة بن الحسن القائم المنتظر المهدي يا صاحب العصر والزمان.
عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وظهورك وجعلنا من أنصارك وأعوانك والمستشهدين بين يديك. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كالحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرزك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.